obsessed with Jonathan Larson's work since I was a teenager in Florida, obsessively listening to Rent and Tick, Tick, Boom. And the first time I ever came to New York City, the first Broadway theater I remember seeing was I was walking around with my family being like, I'm in New York for the first time, I'm 15. And we looked down the street and we saw the Nederlander. And I knew that we were on 41st Street and that was the home of Rent.
I first discovered Jonathan Larson's work when I was in 7th grade. My mom played me the opening song from Rent in the car on the way to school. I was like, what is this? How can you have one song with just a guitar tuning as the soundtrack underneath it? Blew my mind and continues to.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would call up my friend and we would both sync up our Rent cast albums. We'd press play at the same time and then hang up, listen to them. I'd follow along in my Rent book, and then we'd call each other back at our favorite parts and like sing along.
I first discovered Jonathan Larson's work, as most people did, in high school. Obviously, it was like everyone's favorite musical.
Rent had just exploded on the scene, and everybody was singing it all the time, and Seasons of Love was the graduation song, the cast party song, the song you just wailed your heart out to.
Jonathan's work has always felt so relevant to me, and it's never felt more relevant than when we've been putting together the Jonathan Larson Project. So many of his songs are so deeply political, and so many of his songs feel so prescient about what's happening now, and they just feel like relevant to our lives.
Jonathan Larson is like completely responsible for me trying to make a living in this thing. Like, had I not seen that performance of Rent in Pittsburgh, I definitely wouldn't be here. I would have been doing something else.
I was lucky enough to be a part of the Tick, Tick, Boom revival back in 2016. And I have to say that that was the first time that Jonathan Larson's music connected with me on a very personal level. I got to meet so many of his closest friends, and I got to see firsthand the kind of connection that his music has with audiences.
He is a writer who really, I think, helped bring musical theater into a more contemporary place. And I guess by that I mean a more accessible place.
What's so amazing about what he does is he really charts his own journey through his characters in this way that's very transparent and therefore incredibly relatable. And I feel like I understand my place in this business because he was so honest about his.
Jonathan Larson's music, to me, is the voice of a generation. Kind of wrapped up in stacks and stacks and stacks of sheet music, handwritten sheet music.
What was inspiring was the fact that somebody so young was putting in the work and making the good work, and people were forming around it. And even after his death, we're continuing to carry it on.
It's impossible to think about Jonathan Larson. For me, it is impossible to think about him without thinking about all of the things we didn't get to see, because I can't even imagine what he would have written. And I feel like by going back and looking at so many of the works that we don't know at all, it's kind of a glimpse into like what could have been, and I think it keeps him here with us.
Seeing the way that his music continues to affect people, continues to stay relevant, just really tells me something about how if I try to put forward work in my life, even if I don't see its success in my lifetime, that it may inspire theater artists for generations. And I think that's, you know, all we can really hope for out of this life. So I find him like incredibly inspiring.
This man who I never got to meet reaches inside of himself and was able to express things that still mean so much to me and to others today. It's a really special thing that is a gift.
If I was going to describe Jonathan's legacy in a few words, I would say eternal, electric, and true.
Lasting and important.
Groundbreaking, extremely fun, visionary. He's a visionary.
I feel like his legacy is like a flame that just will never go out. and that makes me so happy.
It goes on and on. So what we really hope to do is send out another wave of that with all this new work that people haven't heard of his, and inspire even more people with it.
Thank you, Jonathan Larson.
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 Thank you, Jonathan Larson.